Hello everybody, my name is UltraGamer63, and you see, there's a question that's been on my mind for quite a while now actually, and that question is, what exactly happens in the story of the Five Nights at Freddy's game? Sure, there are hundreds of thousands of theories, but they all seem to try to answer the same questions like, oh, this guy is the purple guy, or this animatronic was responsible for the bite of 87, or this animatronic killed the phone guy, or this guy was stuffed, this is the suit he was stuffed in, and so on and so on. But I have a theory that could explain everything. And it's simple. None of it ever happened. Now, in order for this theory to make sense, you need to understand two concepts. Embedding, which I learned from 22 Jump Street, and the fact that the human brain does not like things it cannot understand and usually relies on the supernatural to explain it, which I learned from the show Brain Games. Now, there are 5 locations, and in chronological order, it goes like this. Fredbear's Family Diner, the first Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, which we haven't played in yet, the new and improved Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, FNaF 2, and Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, FNaF 1, and finally, Fazbear's Fright of FNaF 3. Now that we got the timeline out of the way, let's start on the actual theory. Now, we start with Fredbear's Family Diner, a place where people think they sold off to Fazbear Entertainment because a child was murdered in front of the restaurant. I believe that the owners sold off in a desperation to get their money back after the restaurant was stuck with hard times because new technology was being developed and it overshadowed Fredbear's. Then comes the first location, which we haven't played in yet. There, not wanting to suffer the same fate as Fredbear's, the owners developed animatronics that could sense sound and look towards it. However, this wasn't innovative enough, so they developed 2 Springlock suits, what we know today as Golden Freddy and Springtrap. Now, as we know, these suits are extremely prone to failure and cause instant death if the Springlock snap. Now, 2 employees were killed in these suits, and the owners realized it would take more money to remove the bodies than they could afford. So they just left them, the bodies in the suits, and left them up on the stage. However, after a few months, the bodies started decaying and blood and mucus started oozing from their eyes and mouths of the suits. This gets the restaurant shut down due to health violations. Then comes the new and improved Freddy Fazbear's Pizza of FNaF 2. Now this is where things start to get complicated. You see, the old night guard that Jeremy replaced was insane. This is where the concept of embedding is important. Embedding is what happens when you are told something, you're most likely going to believe it, no matter what other contradictory information enters your mind. This is what happens with Night Guard 1 and Phone Guy. Night Guard 1 complains to Phone Guy, and he starts to believe it. He then relies that information onto Jeremy, and he starts to believe it too. Now, think about this from a logical standpoint. This game takes place in 1987. Even in 2015, it's extremely difficult to get an animatronic to move without being bolted onto the floor. So 1987 and 1993 are completely out of the question. Now, Jeremy is aware of this limitation and needs to find some way to understand why this is happening. Now, all the newspaper articles in FNaF 1, except for the ones that state children are murdered or missing, are real. I'll explain how we know this when we come to it. Jeremy read these articles and starts using the supernatural to explain it. For him, he uses the murdered children. Now, if none of this is happening, what about the deaths and the death minigames? Well, here's my theory over it. Jeremy becomes so scared that he passes out and the death minigames are his dreams, and another way to explain the events of FNaF 2. This also explains why you're allowed to try again from the night you died on. Jeremy is constantly pushed further and further into insanity, and is about to snap and do something about the animatronics. Before he can, though, he's moved to day shift and he shares his tales with the other day workers. More importantly, Fritz Smith, who ends up believing him. This explains why he suffers from the same hallucinations with no phone guide to guide him. Now, Fritz reaches his limit much quicker than Jeremy, because some people, Markiplier, are cruel enough to put him through 1020 mode first. He tampers with the animatronics to make sure they can't get anyone else. However, this gets him the ticket out of hell known as the pink slip. Then comes Freddy Fazbear's Pizza of FNaF 1 in 1993. Here, our new guard, Mike Schmidt, has pretty much the same story as Jeremy. Mike read the articles, but requires some more explanation, so he comes up with the missing children incident. Now, what about the Phone Guy's death? Well, Phone Guy states that he's finishing up his last week, and I believe he finished his week on night 3, but since Mike was so used to Phone Guy's calls, when not receiving one, he instantly assumes the worst. After hearing Phone Guy die and being forced to stay in this place for 7 consecutive nights, Mike reaches his limits and breaks the animatronics. Again, this gets him a pink slip. Then, 30 years later, 30, nice big round number, Fazbear's Fright the horror attraction is scheduled to open in 1 week, where we meet our new night guard. Let me think. Real person make last name. Yeah, that's a good name. Anyway, this is the only place where our one animatronic, Springtrap, is actually able to move. I mean, it's 2023. We've had about 8 years of technological advancement since 2015, so a moving animatronic is extremely possible. Now, real person McLastname also read the articles, and this is Jeremy and Mike before them, read about the blood and mucus oozing out of the mask, blah blah blah, and realized that someone was stuffed in the suits. Again, like Jeremy and Mike, real person McLastname thinks a child killer is on the loose, except he assumes that they were stuffed in the Springtrap suit. Now, the owners of Fazbear's Fright find the Springtrap suit, not wanting to suffer the same fate as Fredbear's Family Diner, take the body out of the costume. Now, his original AI states turn and sing, so they tamper with it until it states turn and scream. Now, he's doing exactly what he's told to, but what about the hallucinations? Real person McLastname should have no idea what these animatronics looks like, right? Well, the phone dude states that he's glad we came back for another night. This seemed to suggest that real person McLastname worked there prior to the events of FNaF 3. They should have seen tons of bits and pieces of the old locations to assemble a very accurate picture of what these robots look like. But then why do they show up? Well, again, we turn to phone dude. He tells us that unless we keep the ventilation working, we'll start to hallucinate. But why don't these guys kill you when Springtrap does? Well, I believe that real person McLastname has managed to convince himself that they aren't real, but can't do the same with Springtrap, considering he sees him walking around the attraction and all that. Now, about the mini-games between nights. Those are the dreams of real person McLastname to help him further understand why this is happening. Now, after night 6, real person McLastname goes to bed and thinks about doing something about Springtrap. Now, this is manifested in night 6. Or nightmare mode. A nightmare of having to suffer through another night with Springtrap. However, when he wakes up in the morning and is about to go do something about it, he finds that the attraction burnt down overnight due to faulty wiring. Now, about the minigames that can be accessed during the nights. I believe that these are just something to give real person McLastname false hope that he can fix this. But the sad truth is, there will never be a good ending, because all 5 of these mimics have gone insane. There's nothing that can fix it.